It's your boy Madi Cuts, and we're gonna get straight to this. So we're gonna do a mid fade. So I'm going right there with the trimmers. Just setting in the guideline. Trying to keep it as neat as possible. Just because this first guideline, the neater you keep it, the better the haircut will come out. So trying to keep it neat, and as I'm going, I'm trying to keep it symmetrical on both sides. So right here, I'm gonna speed it up. That way, I just debulk all the hair right under it. That way we make sure everything is clean. And then try not to poke the machine too much on their skin. That way it doesn't get too irritated. Just kind of go up and down. Just try to glide it on the skin. That way it just makes it a smooth cut, and the machine is not pulling on their hair. Yeah, and then stay tuned with this video, because I will be showing at the end how to cut his comb over with scissors, and I will style it as well. So right here, I'm going with my shavers, and I'm flicking up about 90% of that surface area that I hit with the trimmers. I definitely don't want to go all the way up there, because then I will create another guideline. So I'm going up, and when I am getting closer to that guideline with the trimmer guideline, I'm flicking up. That way it doesn't that way the shaver just doesn't create that, another guideline right below, because then it will be a little harder to take out. So just finishing up the shaver, and then I will go in with, let's see, well, I'm actually gonna clip the hair, and usually I will part it. I would like spray it with some water, and I will part it, that way we make that part pretty straight. But I made his part before, and his hair usually stays long, so it's easy to just separate it where I get it with the comb. The long hair stays on top, and the short hair stays on the bottom, and I know what to cut. So I'm going to go in, and I will debulk it with the number 2, just so I can see what I'm working with. And as you can tell, there's different densities across his hair. Usually most of the density sits in the back of the head. That's why the guidelines will be a little bit longer in length towards the back, and in the front we keep it smaller. So we're going to go with my clipper open, and just flicking into the hair about finger's length. And if I will go open, close it up, and then I will halfway close and then close it all the way. So right now we're halfway closed, and I'm just flicking into halfway into that guideline. And don't be scared to flick into the guideline, because sometimes people, they are afraid and they're not really cutting anything. So get in there. And definitely, so now we're going with my lever all the way closed, and that guideline with my trimmer, I start flicking once I hit that guideline. So definitely you should be flicking across that guideline above it. So definitely don't be scared. So right here I got my trimmers, and I'm just flicking into the guideline, because we still had some stubble there that created a little line. So I took it out with my trimmer, because that's what the step was before. So right here I go in with my half guard open. Same routine. We're going to close it halfway, and we're going to close it all the way. When I close it halfway, I will be hitting it halfway through that guideline, and I am flicking into that. And then I'm going to close it all the way, as I'm doing right now, and I'm flicking into the most bottom guideline that I created with my no guard open. And as you can see, there's still somewhat of a guideline. And just like I did previously, when you close it all the way and there's still a guideline, you just got to drop back down to the step that you did before, which is with a no guard open. So that's what I'm doing right here with my wall senior, going in with my no guard open. And I'm just kind of flicking in at an angle. That way I try not to create another guideline. Instead, I'm trying to just blur it out. So since it didn't take it out, I did close the lever a little bit. This is where you want to play around with the lever sometimes, and then just try to get it out. So right here, since I debulked it with the number 2, I'm going in with the 1.5, and I'm just flicking up to the number 2. And with the 1.5, I went in first open, and now it's halfway. I'm hitting it halfway through the guideline. And instead of closing my 1.5 all the way, I'm just going to bring my number 1, and I'm going to flick into that guideline, because so we got to think it's a numbers game. I went in with the 1.5, and the guideline before was a 0.5. So what's in between that? It's a number 1. So that's what I went in right now with that number 1 guard, and it's open. Since it didn't take it out, I'm gonna just step back and go one step below, which is the 0.5 open. So I'm just flicking into it at an angle, just to make sure that, you know, we're trying to make it a fade right here. So we're not trying to create any more guidelines. So I did start closing up the lever a little bit, you know, playing with the lever, just to kind of blur it out. So now I'm going over my number 2 again. Remember, this is the highest number we use, and this is the highest number that we will use. After this, we will be doing clipper over comb. So I'm just flicking into the boat. Notice how I'm not digging into the hair, but I'm flicking out as I get to that boat on top, because I do want to preserve as much as possible. And then right below it, you know, this is more where I'm just kind of like cleaning it up, you know, detailing. I noticed that right below that number 2, there still was somewhat of darkness, so I went in with the 1.5, and this is where I go with the clip over comb. So I just go into the bulk, and I'm trying to create a shape as well, you know, so I'm flaring it out. I go into the bulk, I flare it out a little bit, then I cut. And as you notice, I go into the bulk, I flare out, cut, and then I follow it up as I'm doing right now. So I go in there, I flare it out, and I kind of, instead of just cutting across, I'm flicking in with the comb, as you see right there. And when I do my clipper over comb, I go with my lever open. That way it gives me some more space for air. I figured that when I used to do it closed, sometimes you have to be really careful with it, because if you didn't flare it out correctly, you could bite into the fade, and that could definitely mess it up. So as soon as I put this clip over comb, you can see the fade coming along. I'm pretty sure I will do some cleaning up as well too. But so far it looks pretty good. So that's just my foundation. I'm pretty sure I will follow it up. So I'm gonna do the C cup. Just try to keep it as natural as possible. Try to get any overhanging hair. Try not to bite into the C cup. That way when it does grow back, it just doesn't, you don't see all them green hairs growing back within 2-3 days, you know. We're trying to preserve the cut. We're trying to make it last as much as possible. There we go. I'm going back to the clip over comb. And right here, I'm just cleaning it up in between. What's left in between the 1.5 and the number 2. Just because when you go in with the clip over comb and you leave your clipper open, it does act as a number 2, or it would qualify as a number 2. So just kind of clean up in between. So now I'm showing this side. This side I won't explain as much. I kind of just sped up the process. That way you guys can just see what I'm doing. You guys can observe and just kind of just watch instead of also having to hear me explain it. That way I'm not over explaining myself or just saying the same things all over again. So I'll just kind of let it right out. All right, so this is where we start working with the hair up top. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some water on it. That way it's easier to maneuver and just easier to hold the hair in your hands while you're cutting it. So I'm just making sure most of the hair is wet and just kind of combing it how I would want it to look. So right here I'm just gonna comb. Let's say we're gonna call this a vertical section, and when I start going across, we'll call those horizontal. So like making a vertical section, and this is where I'm setting my guideline. So he had told me he wanted to take off about 1 inch, so that's what I went ahead and did. And I'm gonna move the camera, that way you guys get a better angle. So boom, using this as a guideline. This is what we're gonna use to kind of keep us on track for the whole hair. Notice I'm just pulling the hair and just kind of using the hair that I cut before as a guideline. So there you go. You guys see that first guideline, and I'm just cutting across. I'm cutting from left to right. There you go. You guys can see the guideline as I'm going. Boom. And I'm just chopping any hair across, and we're just gonna do it all across into the head, and then towards the end, you guys will see how on the far right side how I start blending it into the fade. So I'm just taking horizontal sections, going across, making sure the hair is about the same length up top. You want to try your best to definitely try to get it so that it's the same length. That way it just makes it easier to comb, and it looks better. If there's a big discrepancy, then it will be shown. See right there, I still showed the guideline. So I created the guideline, I just went across. So over here there will be some overhanging hair, so I'm just gonna use my finger going up on the head, kind of just going right above the parietal ridge and kind of connecting to all the hair on the parietal ridge. So I went ahead and did that. And then keep in mind, you will comb it out at the end, blow dry, comb it out, and then there's still any like overhanging hairs, then then you will definitely just clip over comb. So right there, I just kind of cut off any overhanging hair. So right there, I'm also doing that as well. Boom, boom, boom. And now I'm gonna cross check. I'm just going cross checking. And crossing is just making sure that we didn't leave any long hairs behind. So I'm just checking, and wherever I see that there's a discrepancy, I'll go ahead and go back and just cut it off. Just kind of just double checking on your work, basically. So boom. So then I start blow drying. Just start blow drying at first, get all the hair out the way. And then now I'm blow drying with hot air, because the hot air will open the hair follicle and mold the hair wherever you want it to go. And then when you want to lock it in so that it stays in that position, you hit it with cold air. And I'm combing in the direction that the hair wants to go as well. So now usually I would use gel, but we ran out of it, so I'm just gonna be using the hairspray. Just spraying on top of it and just kind of combing the hair how it wants, or like where it's supposed to be combed. So I'm putting some more in the front, and I do style it, and then after I will line it up, and that's the end result right there with the lineup and all that stuff. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I will do a more detailed video on how to cut the long hair as well. Stay tapped in.